Fans are in complete shock as disturbing reports surface that Scrappy may have reached his lowest point. However, sources close to the rapper reveal that he's been spiraling ever since Bambi left his life, and now in a heartbreaking turn of events, he's allegedly attempted to end it all. Scrappy is at his breaking point after everything he's been through, including the heartbreak, betrayals, and endless drama. It seems like he just can't take it anymore. Fans are wondering how it happened, whether this is really Scrappy's last moment, and whether Bambi will intervene before it's too late. Stay tuned because what we're about to reveal will leave you speechless. Scrappy had always been known for his resilience, finding a way to push through no matter how difficult things got. However, this time something was different. The pain seemed unbearable, the weight of his heartbreak, the betrayal, and This time, the breakup felt permanent, and Scrappy wasn't handling it well. Friends noticed the change in his behavior. His usual vibrant energy had dimmed, his social media went unusually quiet, and his once lively presence had been replaced with cryptic messages that suggested loneliness had finally caught up with him. Now, sources close to the rapper reveal that he may have done the unthinkable. It all began when Bambi, the love of his life, left. Their relationship had been a whirlwind of passion, fights, and makeup, but this time the breakup felt permanent. When Scrappy posted a series of Instagram stories, each darker than the last, fans started to suspect something was wrong. One post in particular caught everyone's attention, a black screen with the words, "What's the point of it all?" written in white. In a late-night conversation, he reportedly told a close friend, "Everything feels empty without her. Nothing makes sense anymore." Within minutes, his followers flooded his direct message with supportive messages. The people closest to Scrappy knew he was having difficulties, but they had no idea how bad things were. Over the past few weeks, his behavior had become more erratic. He stopped attending studio sessions, missed crucial meetings, and even ghosted some of his closest friends. The biggest red flag, though, was that he began drinking heavily, something he had once vowed never to do again. One of his longtime friends wished for Scrappy to stay strong. He kept saying, "I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm tired, bro. I just want this pain to stop." And I tried to get him out of that mindset, but I could see it in his eyes. As the days went by, his family became more and more concerned, and Mama D was one of the people who went to check on him since they knew something was seriously wrong. His house was a mess, with bottles all over the place, and his blinds were closed tightly as if he didn't want to see the light. In a heartbreaking Instagram live session, she became the first to publicly admit that something was seriously wrong. She asked fans to send prayers, saying, "Y'all, I need y'all to lift my baby up. I don't know what's going on, but he isn't himself. I haven't seen him this low before. I'm scared for him, really scared." Then came the night that changed everything. According to reports, when Scrappy locked himself inside his house on a calm evening, refusing to answer calls or texts, his closest friends sensing that something was seriously amiss. When authorities and paramedics arrived, they forced their way inside and discovered Scrappy unconscious and limp on the floor. We drove to his house and banged on the door for him to let them in, but after what seemed like an eternity, one of them decided to call for help because we had no idea what else to do. We were yelling his name, Bing, on the door, but it was just silent inside, and I swear I felt like my heart was about to explode. It was obvious that this was a desperate cry for help because there were pills all over him and a bottle of liquor on the table. Medics started working to stabilize him right away, but his friend was standing there with frozen tears in their eyes. One of them later admitted that we kept calling his name in the hopes that he would open his eyes and that we were just hoping he would survive as they rushed him to the hospital. The news went viral on social media, with worried fans posting supportive and loving messages, hoping that this wasn't the end. While Scrappy was being taken to emergency care, friends revealed that he had been spiraling for weeks, but no one had realized how far gone he was. One source said he was drowning in his thoughts every day, talking about how he felt like a failure, like he wasn't enough, and no matter what we told him, it was as if he couldn't hear us. The real question was whether he would survive, and if he did, Would this be the wake-up call he needed? Mother D was seen arriving at the hospital visibly distressed, pleading with the medical staff for updates on her son's condition. Today's heartbreaking story raises the important question of whether Scrappy will actually be able to start a new chapter in his life. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him, but the situation was critical. Reports indicated that he had consumed a dangerous combination of substances, making it a race against time, and for his loved ones, those moments felt like an eternity. Do you think Scrappy will find the strength to move on, or is there still hope for him and Bambi to reunite? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you want to stay up to date on all the latest drama, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Fans are still worried about the entire situation, and social media is flooded with prayers and support for him. An insider revealed that Bambi may not have been with Scrappy anymore, but that doesn't mean she stopped caring. She felt guilty, as if perhaps if she had handled things differently, he wouldn't have reached this point. Fans were also shaken to their core, and messages of concern flooded social media with hashtags like #PrayForScrappy trending nationwide. Sources said that Bambi was devastated despite their rocky history. Platforms to share their grief and offer support. Mental health is real, and we have to check in on our people praying for Scrappy right now. One famous rapper tweeted, but as the world waited for updates inside the hospital, they made it clear that the next few hours were crucial. If Scrappy survived, he would have a long road to recovery ahead of him, but if he didn't, the world would be saying goodbye to yet another beloved star far too soon. The waiting room was eerily silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of the monitors that Kid tightly gripped as if fearing that letting go would mean losing him forever. As dawn broke the tension, every minute felt like a lifetime, and everyone was holding their breath, praying that Scrappy would wake up or that this was really the end. His mother, Mama D, sat by his bedside, gripping his hand, and Scrappy lay in the hospital bed, his body weak, his mind clouded with pain and regret. The world outside the hospital had erupted in chaos after news of Scrappy's suicide attempt spread like wildfire, and fans, celebrities, and fellow artists took to social media to flood the internet with messages of concern, support, and speculation. One post read, "We love you, Scrappy, stay strong." Another was more accusatory, asking where Bambi was when he died. Her prayers had been endless, and her heart had been broken at the sight of her son in such a fragile state. People wanted to know if she had spoken to Scrappy before the incident and if she had any idea how much he was suffering. But Bambi remained silent and refused to be drawn into the chaos. She was secretly struggling with her own emotions, and Yil pointed out that she had pushed him too far and that she had been too cold in their last conversation. Bambi herself had been caught in the storm, and the blame game had started, with fingers pointing in all directions. While this was going on, Scrappy drifted in and out of consciousness, his mind trapped in a whirlwind of memories. He saw memories of his life with Bambi, including the arguments, laughter, and love that had once burned brightly but had now turned to ashes. He saw Mama D's anxious face, Diamond's panicked expression, the paramedics racing to save him, and then darkness, a deep abyss that threatened to swallow him whole. Hours turned into days before Scrappy gradually recovered his strength. The emotional scars were much more severe than the physical ones, so a therapist was brought in to help him talk about his feelings and face the pain that had almost consumed him. At first, he resisted answering the questions quickly with forced laughter and meaningless assurances that he was fine and just going through a difficult time. But Mama D wasn't a fool. She had witnessed her son at his lowest point and knew that pretending wouldn't help him. You had to let it out. You can't keep holding all that pain inside. It will eat you up, she said. Scrappy sighed, his eyes glassy with unch. The words lingered in the air, heavy with truth, and even though Scrappy knew she was right, something in her voice gave him a sliver of hope, a tiny flicker of light in the darkness. I just don't know how to do this without her, Mama. Every day feels empty, like I'm just going through the motions. Mama D gently stroked his hand, saying, "I know it hurts, baby, but you have to find a way to live for yourself, not for Bambi, not for anyone else, just for you." The greatest surprise came when Bambi finally entered the hospital. The room fell silent as she entered, her expression unreadable, and his eyes met his. Scrappy had dreamed of this moment and had imagined 1,000 different scenarios of what he would say if he ever saw her again. But now that she was here, words failed him. He had seen him before, and his close friends, industry peers, and even people he hadn't spoken to in years reached out with the same message. "We need you here, Scrappy. You matter." After taking a deep breath, Bambi said, "Scrappy, I never wanted this for you." His voice was hoarse, and when he answered, she paused before sitting next to him. "I thought we were doing what was best for both of us, but I never meant for you to feel like this." "I'm never meant for you," she said, blinking back tears. Scrappy clenched his fist, his emotions a detangled mess of anger, sorrow, and longing. "Then, why did you leave me?" He wanted to argue with her to tell her that she was wrong and that they could have found a way, but deep down he knew she was right. Their love had been passionate, but also destructive for a long time. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, unfinished conversations, and history too. "You knew I couldn't live without you," Bambi sighed, looking down. "Love shouldn't be toxic, Scrappy. We were hurting each other, and I didn't know how to fix it. Difficult to untangle in one night. But I know one thing, you don't get to give up, Scrappy. You don't get to leave like this. You are loved, you are needed." Scrappy swallowed hard, his vision blurred by tears. "So why does it still hurt so damn much?" Bambi gently squeezed his hand because healing takes time, and you have to let yourself heal. As she got up to go, Scrappy felt something shift inside of him, possibly closure. As the door closed behind her, Scrappy let out a deep breath, the weight on his chest slightly lighter than before. He wasn't okay yet, but for the first time in a long time, he believed that maybe one day he could be. He sat in his dimly lit room, the weight of his emotions pressing down on him like a crushing force, his phone buzzing constantly. Was it acceptance? Or perhaps it was just the start of a new chapter, one where he learned to live for himself, even if it meant learning how to do it without her. The formerly lively Scrappy, who was known for his energy and charisma, was now staring blankly at the walls, drowning in memories of the love he had lost. Mama D had tried everything, including calling, visiting, and even forcing Scrappy to sit down and talk about his feelings, but nothing seemed to ease his pain at the thought of Bambi moving on. Messages were flooding in from friends, family, and fans, and everyone was worried and asking questions, but nobody could understand or feel the emptiness that had consumed him since Bambi left. Living her life without him tore him apart piece by piece. He had always been a fighter, facing challenges head-on and overcoming obstacles, but this time was different. The battle wasn't one he knew how to win. The rumor began when Scrappy posted a mysterious message on social media, causing fans to speculate that friends were reaching out to everyone, saying that Scrappy had been dealing with severe depression. When the situation became clear in the middle of the night, Scrappy called. The call ended, and Scrappy sat there with his phone in his hands, shaking, feeling lost and broken beyond repair. That was the moment he made a decision that would send shockwaves through everyone who cared about him. His voice trembled as he spoke, his emotions raw and unfiltered, admitting that he didn't know how to do this without you and that his heart was pounding in his chest. Despite her sympathy, Bambi remained firm and Scrappy. After receiving a series of alarming texts, Diamond, a close friend and fellow rapper, arrived at Scrappy's house. What she discovered sent shivers down her spine. Scrappy was barely conscious, his face was pale, his body was weak, and empty bottles were lying all over the floor, a haunting testament to his desperation. Panicked, Diamond called 911 right away, her hands shaking as she pleaded for help, and paramedics arrived minutes later, rushing Scrappy to the hospital. The news quickly went viral on social media, and people began to pray for In the hospital room, Scrappy lay unconscious with the machine monitoring his vitals beeping steadily. Mama D refused to leave his side, her hands clasped together as she muttered prayers under her breath. "Lord, don't take my baby." Tears streamed down her face, expressing the pain of witnessing her son in such a fragile state. Scrappy began trending, and fans flooded timelines with messages of hope and support for the music industry. His friends, even his ex-partners, came forward to show their love and concern. The tension in the air was suffocating everyone as the hours went by, and the doctors worked nonstop to stabilize him. But finally, there was movement, a slow blink, a faint whisper, and Scrappy was waking up. The relief in the room was tangible, but the battle was far from over. Scrappy's road to recovery would be long and arduous. The emotional wounds ran deep, and the pain of losing Bambi still loomed over him like a dark cloud. Support, a glimmer of hope appeared. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could find his way back. Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind a flurry of emotions. The weight of what had just transpired had settled in, and his near-death experience had shaken not only him, but everyone who loved him. His body felt weak and drained from the trauma, but the pain in his chest had nothing to do with the physical. Rather, it was his heart broken beyond recognition that hurt the most. Mama D sat next to him, holding his hand tightly, her eyes full of relief. "Don't you ever say that again. You have so much to live for. Look around you, your family, friends, and fans all love you. You can't let this break you." But it wasn't that easy. Scrappy spent months trying to move on and rebuild himself after losing Bambi. "And concern, baby, you scared me to death," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "What were you thinking?" Scrappy let out a heavy sigh. "I wasn't thinking, Mama, just feeling like I had nothing left." The door to this hospital room creaked open, and to his surprise, Bambi entered. She appeared apprehensive, almost anxious, but there was unmistakable sadness in her eyes. Scrappy heard what had happened for a brief moment, neither of them speaking. The tension was thick, years of love and pain hanging between them like an unspoken weight. Scrappy swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper, explaining why he was here. Scrappy's expression softened as she put a hand on his Scrappy. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because we were toxic for each other. We kept hurting each other, and I couldn't keep living like that. But that doesn't mean I wanted this for you. I don't want to see you like this," she said, letting out a bitter laugh. "Caring about me won't change anything, Bambi. You left, you moved on, and hello, I don't know how to." The road ahead was uncertain, filled with pain and healing, but he knew deep down that she was right. They had been through so much, torn apart by their own demons, and yet even now, in his weakest moment, she was here. Mama D cleared her throat, sensing the depth of the moment, and said, "If you care about him, help him. He needs to heal, and he can't do it alone." Bambi hesitated, then nodded. "I can't promise anything, but I can be here as a friend." Though fans are still worried about the situation, and social media is awash with prayers and support for him, one thing is clear: Scrappy wasn't alone, and for the first time in a long time, that gave him hope. Today's heartbreaking story raises a lot of questions about whether Scrappy will be able to start a new chapter in his life, find a way to live without Bambi, or will his heart always be stuck in this pain? What do you think? Will Scrappy find the strength to move forward, or is there still hope for him and Bambi to reunite? Your opinions in the space provided below, and remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and switch on the channel if you want to be informed about all the newest drama. On alerts to ensure you don't miss a narrative.